Peace, what's up, family? And welcome to another episode of Ron's Library and Ideas. Today we're going to be continuing on in the book called Satan, an Autobiography, as told to Yehuda Berg. And remember, disclaimer, this is not a book that is about glorifying Satan, but it is a book about you better understanding your adversary or the enemy. If this is your first time tuning into this, I'm going to read the opening leaflet to you real quickly. All right, so using the literary device of an as told to autobiography, Yehuda Berg here explains the true nature of the adversary according to the ancient Kabbalistic wisdom. We learn that Satan, which translates from Aramaic as the adversary, is not really the name of a horned devil, but the description of an opposing force that resides within all of us, manifesting as a recurrent voice of uncertainty and negativity, wreaking havoc throughout the world. Indeed, Satan is actually another name for ego, the part of ourselves that stands in the way of our connection with the light, the source of all positive energy. And with that quick little excerpt, I think that explains pretty good what this entire book is about. We'll get into it a little bit later about why I think the image of Satan has changed so much throughout the years. But I know it has to do with power and with giving the people an enemy outside of themselves that the church is the only key to fighting against. You have to go to them to get the answer. So that gives them a lot of power over you. So we're going to continue in Satan, an autobiography, chapter 11. Test number 2. Who knows best? Answer: God does. Also, just a side note before we begin, thank you guys for tuning in. Share this with somebody. Share this audio book that I'm putting up here with someone that you think may need this. And also leave a like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We'll be doing more of this and learning. So it continues. What would you do if someone in a position of power in your life asked you to walk away from your home, your family, your livelihood, and your community without any guarantee of what would happen next? God sprung this request on Moses, so God might do the same to you. So, what would you do? I bet the farm you'd laugh. I know you would. Why? Because you think you know better. Admit it. I know you do. The very moment you think you need to play know it all is precisely the moment you need to just shut up and listen. Do exactly what you are being challenged to do in spite of the fact that you think you know better. Trust me, you don't. That's because only the Creator has the perspective to know your true purpose and to help you achieve it. You see, you came here to do a specific job, and while my task is to keep you off track from your true purpose, the Creator is doing everything in the Creator's power to lead you to it. The question is, how long would you let me lead you astray? How long would you deny yourself a life of purpose and fulfillment? King David. King David and his best friend Jonathan had it figured out. They didn't give me any way in to ruin their connection with one another or with the Creator. Maybe you know the story of these two men. If you don't, I'll give you the short version. David was best friends with Jonathan, who was the son of King Saul and the rightful heir to the throne. Both David and Jonathan had such trust in the Creator, as well as love for each other, that they were both willing to forego the throne, if necessary, to maintain their friendship. Can you imagine having that kind of faith in the Creator, that kind of love for another soul, that certainty that the Creator knows best? Can you imagine having the willingness to say, I am here and I am willing to do what needs to be done? David was willing to stay or to go. He was willing to leave his best friend and abandon the kingdom based on what God wanted. Just like that. Try that one on for size. Have you got what it takes? Do what you're told. If the universe encourages you to act now, it's in your absolute interest to do so. If the universe makes it clear that you need to stay put, then stay put. For once in your life, don't listen to me. That means that if you find yourself stuck in Mexico because of a passport issue or some other snafu, know that there is light to be revealed exactly where you are located, either for you personally or for those around you, or both. Or if you're traveling somewhere else and you miss your flight and are delayed in the airport for hours, there's a reason for that too. There is work to be done there, maybe in the form of a life changing conversation or perhaps a more subtle yet equally important experience. Take comfort in knowing that whatever eventually happens in your life or your community or the world, that is exactly what is supposed to happen. There is no point in resisting your location or situation. Trying to control it will lead to nothing but frustration. Just open yourself up to seeing what the Creator is showing you. If you can, you'll send me packing just like that. You know the story about the man who is hanging from a cliff in a snowstorm? He begs God to help. God says, just let go and I'll catch you. I'm listening in. So I say to the man, what are you, nuts? You'll die. The man hangs on, and the next morning, they find the poor guy frozen to death, still clinging to the cliff just 3 feet from the ground. I win by talking you into bad choices. You win by letting go. Letting go of what you think is good for you, that is. That's because when you do that, you get more than you ever thought was possible. And I sure the heck don't live in the realm of possibility. That's God's domain. Okay, that's the end of this chapter. These few chapters the last two chapters you read have been pretty short. So it seems like this chapter is basically saying let go and let God. I know you've heard that before, but honestly, that's a little difficult to do. To let, well, at least for me, that is. You know, my father is a chess player, and he showed me the game at a pretty early age. And just that male logic in general that we like to know our next course of action. If I do this, then this will happen. So I understand how difficult that can be, just letting go and moving by the will of God. Because one of the things that's interesting is those voices that you hear in your head. You don't know if that's coming from the ego or if that voice is truly coming from God. But Phil Valentine, you guys should look him up on YouTube. He did a lecture with Brother Rich on his channel, and he said something that really stuck out to me. He said the ego, when it speaks to you, is always loud. It's clear to hear the ego. But when God is speaking to you, when your higher self is speaking to you, it comes across as a whisper. It's something slight. It doesn't have to be loud and boisterous, but you'll hear it if you know to stop and just think about it. It'd be something almost like in the back of your mind. And that's the challenge that we all have. We have to figure out what that little voice is. You know, it's amazing looking back on my life. I can see how different choices that I made led to my current position. I didn't always have it planned out. Even now, you know, I have an ideal and a goal for my life, and I have a plan that I want to implement that I am implementing to get there. But I also know there are also challenges and things that happen along the way that change the trajectory of that plan. I went off to Albany State with the full intention of when I got out, I was going to be a band director. But something didn't sit right in my spirit after I got out of school and I was looking at the education system. It just didn't move me the same way. But teaching was still in me. Wanting to share knowledge was still in me. I look back at Facebook memories when they come up and I see these videos of myself sitting down in front of the camera and reading to people what I thought was interesting. I didn't know that I was going to turn into a YouTube channel. And I know at some point, some years down the line, people are going to come back to these videos and they can see, like, wow, this is where he started in. Look at what it's grown into. Just staying consistent. And just a little story about so you can know that the whole let go and let God and it turns into something good for you. When I was living in Albany, Georgia, I started working at Buffalo Wild Wings. I got that job after the grocery store I was working at closed down. So I needed some money, and I had a frat brother who put in a good word for me that helped me to get hired. Shout out to Tristan if you're listening to this. He's going to come in handy, or he's going to be important later on in this story. So I worked at I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings for a while in Albany, and eventually, after I graduated from Albany State, I moved back to Savannah. So when I moved back, I was staying at home and I wasn't working anywhere. And then the thought occurred to me, so you know what, I could probably just transfer my job and start working at the Buffalo Wild Wings here. And that's what I did. I went up to Buffalo Wild Wings in Savannah and I got a job serving. Uh, that was back in my weed smoking days, right? So I knew how to serve. Like I worked there before, but my first couple of days there, they made me shadow behind somebody to see if I knew what I was doing. So that happened for 2 days. And then on the third day, I thought it was going to be another day where they're going to have me shadow and I was going to get my own section. So I smoked a fat blunt before I went to work. Got good and high. So I walked in and they were like, yeah, you're going to have your own section today because we're kind of busy. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm zooted. I remember getting this one table and screwing their order up completely. Like I don't remember what I did wrong, but it was a mess. Like the manager had to come out, or excuse me. So the manager or the floor supervisor had to come out and comp some of those guys' food. But after I made it through that first shift of working that high, I only had that one mistake. After that, I was, oh, this is a cinch. So that was like my routine for the most part. But anyway, working at that Buffalo Wild Wings, one day this young woman comes in and she's new. She's working there. She's coming in there to be an employee, a server. So she comes in and I think she's beautiful. So I step to her and I say something to her. I say, oh, what's up? I'm Ron. Um, but she goes in the back and my frat brother Tristan, who's like a floor supervisor at the time, he comes out. He's like, hey, I need you to train her for today. And I was like, oh yeah? I started rubbing my hands together like, oh, this is working out perfectly. But that young lady, that woman that came in and I was her trainer, um, today she's now my fiance and we're getting married. So shout out to Tristan, who helped get me that job at Buffalo Wild Wings. And then he brought my fiance, my future wife, to me to be her trainer. Now look at that. I went and got that job at Buffalo Wild Wings because I needed some money. I didn't really know what else to do. And look what that turned into. So the idea is that you need to make the best of whatever situation that you find yourself in. There's opportunity around you. You just have to have an eye out and look for it. How can I better myself while I'm here? And whatever job that you do, this is something that my grandfather used to tell me. He said, whatever you do your best at it and see where that will take you. And I think that fits perfectly into this idea of letting go and letting God and doing the best you can in whatever situation you find yourself in. You don't see how the domino pieces will fall, but it'll lead to your eventual glory. It'll lead to something better. You just have to know that to be true for yourself. But thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to bring you another chapter, maybe another one tonight. We'll see. These are pretty short. But I appreciate you guys listening. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share this with somebody who could use this story. And also check out some of the older videos that I have on my channel as well. This channel is all about sharing the information that I found to be life-changing and informative for me. And hopefully by changing that information, hopefully by sharing that information, it'll change something inside of you as well. And you'll have that confidence to know that you are intelligent, you're bright, you're creative, and you have the power to do anything that you want to do. You just have to have the confidence to do it. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode of Ron's Library and Ideas. Peace.